Okay, thank you for joining today's webinar. We'll go ahead and get started this afternoon. I'd like to welcome everyone and thank you for joining today's Managed File Transfer Data Security Integrity webinar. Today's webinar is hosted by Remedi Electronic Commerce Group in partnership with IBM and IBM's B2B Business Solutions Group. My name is Scott Story. I'm a B2B integration software and services account manager for Remedi Electronic Commerce Group. Presentation will run 35 to 45 minutes, and we'll have a question and answer session at the end. All lines will be muted until we begin the Q&A session. For those of you not familiar with Remedi, I'd like to provide a brief company overview before we get started. Remedi Electronic Commerce Group is an IBM advanced business partner with a business focus on B2B integration, EDI, e-commerce, data exchange, and managed file transfer solutions. Founded in 1994, Remedi has had a long partner relationship with Sterling Commerce to provide preferred B2BI and MFT design, implementation, and configuration services. As an advanced business partner with IBM, Remedi offers software resale, professional services, and direct contract to hire placement. Remedi is located in Columbus, Ohio, and services North America through our national network of expert integration professionals in IBM partnership. My contact information and the contact information for IBM's Sterling brand specialist Bob Lynch will be available at the end of the presentation. Thanks. At this point, I'd like to hand the presentation over to Josh. Go ahead, Josh.
Thank you, Scott. I sure appreciate that. I want to welcome everybody today, and we're going to go through some of the slides here that have been prepared, and we want to discuss some of the issues around MFT and implementation. There seems to be with the kind of a upset in the market here and some of the different changes in the software industry. This seems to be a more focused position for a lot of companies right now, especially as they try and decide how to move forward. We want to talk today and kind of address some of the concerns around MFT in your environment, which your current MFT may be lacking. Hopefully we can bring up some points that you may not have thought about, things that you may be trying to decide, and hopefully we can kind of encourage the discussion there that help you to see what we can bring to the table and maybe give you some ideas going forward that will assist you in your organization in implementing your MFT solution. We want to talk specifically to start with. We had kind of advertised up front what your management might need from MFT, some of the MFT tools that are there, and then we're going to discuss in particular some of the offerings from IBM, their MFT tools, and how that relationship with Remedi plays a part in that, and what we really feel that in getting you to your MFT goals. I want to welcome those who just joined with us. We've already started and are underway. There'll be a Q&A discussion at the end of our slideshow presentation. So thank you again for joining and giving us an opportunity to talk some of these over. So let's kind of dive into some of the focus ideas around what we see oftentimes in organizations when they're trying to implement MFT, and some of the things that they tend not to either think about or maybe think about too late. We'll just start with the first thing is growth. Organizations tend to have a tremendous amount of growth with MFT, and this in particular tends to override a lot of other concerns. Application groups now are producing larger and larger volumes of data. This increases every year on an exponential scale. The amounts of data just go from several megabytes now to gigabytes upon gigabytes. An average organization can lift in a day anywhere from 40 to 100 gigabytes across their MFT solution. And this doesn't seem to be slowing down at all. In fact, the trends stay the same, we should see that number go much, much higher. So this is something that a lot of MFT software solutions were designed and built in a time when kilobytes and kilocharacters were important. But now we're seeing that the IT world is moving beyond that. The other thing that tends to be a huge concern, and it seems to be an afterthought at some organizations, is the amount of time lost to chasing data. If you talk to any operations group who manages your MFT solution, their number one day-to-day issue is chasing, where's my file? What's happened to the data that I sent across? Did it make where it needed to go? There is a figure that's been produced, and after a study, they showed that it costs a little over 5 cents per file that's transferred in an MFT solution to chase that file, to monitor it, and to look for it. So this expense gets to be enormous to an organization, and lost man hours, lost productivity, and an overall sometimes viewpoint from your trading partners that maybe your MFT solution isn't providing what it needs to. Maybe your people are spending too much time looking for this data. And there needs to be a better solution and a better organization to what they see. The other one is to provide reduced cost. It seems to be the top priority in a lot of organizations with the financial crunch that's happened in the last few years, the credit freezes, and different organizations, especially in the financial and manufacturing areas, have really felt the squeeze to reduce their costs. And that translates into less money available for software purchases, oftentimes reduced staff models. And so the MFT solutions that need to be there need to be cost effective, they need to be accurate in what they're doing, and they need to be able to support this growth. They also need to be set up in such a way that you can have a smaller staff monitor a larger area. And that seems to be a very crucial piece in implementing the new MFT solution. One of the other issues that we tend to find a lot is that security issues tend to kind of run around homegrown MFT systems. In other words, a system that was probably built 4 or 5 years ago, it did well when it started, but in order to save costs, sometimes companies will have a sharp programmer sit down and build an MFT solution. These types of solutions often lack support due to staff that tend to move within the organization. They also tend to lack security features that we like to see from the IBM solutions that they provide. Oftentimes, advanced integration issues with SSL, SSH, file tracking, logging that is accurate and readable. These types of problems can cost corporations large amounts of money and damage when they're broken or breached. One of the costs, the figures in doing some of the research around here was that the average breach for security on one of these external systems can be upwards of $6 to $7 million. I'm sorry, there's a little bit of background noise on here. It'll stop in just a second. The other issue that we often find is ad hoc transmission methods, and these can be put forward as simply attaching a file in an email to one-off FTP solutions that come from an internal application. They will petition and open a hole in the firewall, and then they connect to an outside vendor. All of this circumvents a built MFT solution. And there's a lot of reasons that applications do this. However, one of the things that shouldn't be a reason for them circumventing it is ease of use. So the MFT application that you have should have a very easy, simple to use methodology. don't want to see lots of holes poked in our firewall. That can present a problem, especially from a management viewpoint, as they want to try and take the time to put those issues into one place, one manageable solution. So let's talk about from a management position. Managers tend to become very critical of any piece of software that's presented to them, and for very good reason. They have the position, or they have the ability to look at a piece of software and decide whether or not it's going to be right for the organization. So in doing that, oftentimes when we present an MFT solution into an organization, it's important to understand how management is going to view that piece of software. What are going to be their concerns? How are they going to qualify whether or not that piece of software is ready and available for their environment, and is it going to really meet the type of issues that they see on a day-to-day basis? Oftentimes, as a technical resource or as an MFT operations group, we tend to see the day-to-day operations of, where's my file? Is the software running correctly? Are we at capacity? Those tend to be our top concerns. But what that doesn't translate very well into management is they often see the other side of the coin. And one of those tends to, in almost every organization where I go in and look at scoping out software for them, audit tends to be a consideration now. There are multiple reasons within an organization for them to constantly monitor the security and the uptime of their applications. So in doing this, the way that the risk groups tend to go through this is by using an audit tool. So how does the piece of software that you're looking at and that you're going to use stand up to an audit? Is it going to pass from a security perspective? That's usually the first step. But then how do you prove that security? And our second step there, we talk about logging. And this becomes crucial. Once the file's gone across, once our activity is done, how do we prove what happened? And is this something that's readable? Is it something that we can export out and use to show the reasons for us having this MFT solution? How many files are we transferring? How many of those files made it to their destination? How many of those files were over 4 or 5 gigs? How can we tell these types of things? And if our logging isn't accurate, if our logging lacks crucial information like that, that can tend to be more of a critical problem later on. And it's not something that tends to be looked at a lot up front when purchasing MFT software. The other thing that we've noticed a lot is regulatory oversight. Financial organizations, telecom, healthcare, you start going down the list of organizations that use MFT, and you realize that a lot of them have strict government regulatory oversight. While those tend to apply a lot to different types of legal scenarios in the organization, oftentimes the finger is pointed at MFT simply because it transfers the data in and out of the organization. Very simply put, when you have something that is crossing the firewall and talking to a trading partner, there's contracts, SLAs, and those types of things are involved. Are you exposing data that shouldn't be there? Social security numbers, people's names, customer lists, all of those things become very important in a regulatory environment. We also need to be able to provide that back, and that goes back to our second point about logging. Can we show the data that's moved, how it was moved, and what parts that need to be given to the regulators in order for them to understand that we've done our business, we've done our job correctly. So another reason that we tend to look at our MFT software is how can we show visibility to our app groups? In a long-term solution, once we're past some of the tougher installation and technical issues, are we providing an environment in which our app groups can come in, look at their data easily, they can understand what's happened without spending a lot of time and becoming frustrated in trying to find technical resources to show them where their data is. And is it possible within the MFT solution that you have right now to show your app groups exactly what happened to their data without a lot of anonymous emails, a lot of SNMP traps that get turned off, or the data that's relevant to them? And the last but not least is standard support. We now see standards that are coming out. A new one is PCIT. AS3 is now on the horizon. These tend to come up in front of management when they're being asked by the app groups to provide solutions from them. They want to know, is the MFT software that they're going to be presenting and promoting to upper management going to be the type that allows them to easily interface with what the app groups need to do when they communicate to the trading partners? So these are some areas and some scenarios where we want to carefully consider the presentation of the MFT software when it comes to talking to management. It can be their greatest asset in making sure that there is funding and positions available to round out the organization's MFT offering. So now it comes down to our favorite part we love to talk about, is the tools that we can provide to meet these needs. Over the years, there has been a very battle-hardened versions of the software that IBM and formerly Sterling Commerce have used to implement in different organizations. And oftentimes it can kind of be a little bit bewildering when you're presented with, here are 10 versions of 10 pieces of software, and how do I use these? How do I implement these in my organization? And what do I do to make these effective for me? Understanding a little bit about the tools and how they're offered can kind of help to answer the questions that we presented. What do we do to give management the insight that they need into the tools? How do we make sure that our operations teams are running efficiently? How do we understand and meet the needs of our app groups and our trading partners in such a way that we have a smooth, consistent flowing system rather than a pain point in the organization? One of the favorite tools, and this is a 30-year-old piece of software that has really entered just about every organization that does some type of file transfer external to the organization. It's Connect Direct. Many of you are probably on the conference have either used or looked at this tool at some point. Due to its reliability, due to the fact that it is a very strong piece of software, this has drawn a lot of people to the IBM MFT suite. It's very popular on the mainframe, and it has gained a tremendous amount of ground in the distributed environment, particularly for organizations that want to talk to some of the government agencies. If they want to talk to financial institutions, large financial institutions, tend to use this as a favorite tool. So what is Connect Direct? Connect Direct is a point-to-point file transfer software. Sounds very simple when you say it that way, but what it really is it's a very robust tool that is used for high volumes of data transfer. It also adds a tremendous amount of security and as well as assured delivery. So we're going to kind of dig into what that tool does and some diagrams and how that helps in the organization. Another tool that we want to introduce is IBM Sterling File Gateway. Some of you are probably familiar with Connect Enterprise, which is a software offering that's been around for some time with Sterling Commerce and now IBM. But this tool now is what we're showing as the next generation to that tool. Sterling File Gateway, it enables your organization to have enhanced visibility to its file transfers. It allows a single point solution for your file transfers. It's giving you enhanced security. It allows you to see the process as it comes across, where the files are stopping, why they didn't make their destination, or when they do succeed, how do we measure that that's made it across. Oh, and I want to back up. I missed one. We've also going to introduce a sub-tool here, too. A lot of times in organizations, FTP tends to be the default mode of transfer. It's often very simple for the app groups to set this up. It works well. It's default supported on most platforms, and so it tends to translate well between organizations. But oftentimes there's huge vulnerability issues exposed by FTP. So how do we take massive amounts of FTP scripts and programs, and how do we translate this into being used by a tool that provides security and the reliability that we need without asking the app groups to go back in and reprogram and rethink all of their processes? So we're going to show you kind of a unique tool today that allows us to do that, as well as integrate into the rest of the solution. One of the newer tools that IBM and Sterling have produced here is the Sterling Control Center. This is a file transfer dashboard. Essentially, this is a piece that's often overlooked by organizations in their implementation, but as this tool has come to maturity, it's a very important tool to go back and look over when it comes to monitoring and controlling your file transfer method within an organization, especially for organizations that have kind of a large dispersed view of Connect Direct. This tool can be very effective. And now as it is reaching stages of maturity, the operations group now can use this tool to monitor other pieces of software. And we'd like to introduce some concepts there too, where it goes beyond just the Sterling suite and can be an asset within the organization at that point. The IBM Sterling Secure Proxy is our fourth tool that we want to talk about today. This is a DMZ-based file transfer product. This is a standalone product that can be implemented within the DMZ to allow a protocol break. This is a terminology that tends to come around within the risk management teams now, and what they want to do, they want to see that you can authenticate, you can bring in authentication with the file transfer mechanism. It stops. That authentication method does not proceed past the DMZ into the internal organization, and yet we can still receive that data across. So how do you go about performing that without a lot of complicated scripting and customization in your software? Well, the Sterling Secure Proxy is what brings that piece of software together. So let's back up and let's talk about Connect Direct just a little bit more. Connect Direct has several components. It is first and foremost a file transfer mechanism. You can, with confidence, move files across in a very reliable manner, unlike FTP, which, although it allows file transfer mechanisms, it can often be very unreliable. Studies have proven that standard FTP transfers can have a success ratio of around 70 to 80%, depending on the implementation. That often means that anywhere from 20 to 30% of your data is lost, missing, it was broken in transmission, or the file doesn't complete across. So how do you get around that without extensive coding? Connect Direct is the solution there, and we're going to show some slides of what Connect Direct processes look like, so that you can see with a little bit of education, it's very simple to translate this FTP solution into Connect Direct, and then you have a mechanism to monitor that, a mechanism that's reliable and robust. The other thing, too, to notice is that Connect Direct supports huge file transfers. The volume of transfer that Connect Direct can do in a day far outweighs any FTP solution. Because of the assured delivery, it has checkpoint restart, in which the file can partially transfer. The software marks what that transfer is, and then it goes back and picks up that software at the point that it left off, thus providing you the ability that even in a scenario where you have multiple transmission failures, you can be assured that your data that you entered in goes and makes it to its destination. Oftentimes I see that large organizations now have moved to this tool when it comes to moving databases. Databases can be bulky, unwieldy, multiple gigabytes, as far as 8 to 10 gigabytes even sometimes, that in a single file transfer. Common methods of FTP and SFTP can often fail during this without any reason or explanation and without any way to restart that transfer. ConnectDirect does offer that as a solution. The other part to notice about ConnectDirect is your connectivity to your outside trading partners. I'm sure many of you have faced a scenario in which you call a trading partner that needs to be established by the business, and as you go down the list of supported protocols, ConnectDirect is often there. In positioning and looking at ConnectDirect carefully, a lot of organizations have found that it is a very cost-effective solution compared to the time it takes to build business rules and SLAs around file transfer mechanisms. Security is another issue. You'll notice at the bottom of the slide it talks about ConnectDirect Secure Plus. This allows an SSL-based authorization for the files. It encrypts not only the authorization, but it encrypts the data in flight so that you have a complete solution that allows you to transfer data while encrypting. This used to be an add-on portion of ConnectDirect, and because of the usage of this part of the product, IBM rolled it into the product. So as part of the default purchase now, this comes along as part of it. And this is something we were all very happy to see now is bundled together. The other portion that we want to talk about with ConnectDirect is the unintended. ConnectDirect has a 24/7, 365 unattended operation model. I can speak to this after working with the software for 13 years. I can tell you very clearly that this software is, once it's built, once it's implemented, it can be turned on, the schedule can be set, and the software simply works. I had one customer come to me and tell me they were using a version of ConnectDirect that was several years old, and the entire organization was scared to touch it because they were afraid that it worked so well that if they did anything to it, they would disable its ability to continue working correctly. Well, I help them to appreciate newer versions of the software are not going to reduce that reliability, only enhance it. However, it does have an excellent reputation for working that well. The other thing, too, is in the touchy space sometimes between dealing with your trading partners, whether they be vendors or consumers or just simply relying on the data that you have to get to them, you need a solution that you can sleep at night knowing it's transferring its data and it doesn't have to be monitored that closely. And I think we can all relate to the MFT softwares that we have that have to be monitored 24/7 very, very closely, simply because they're just not reliable. So this software goes a long way towards making that a thing of the past. This is an example of the ConnectDirect process. The top process there shows a process level from a mainframe. This is showing a simple file transfer from one mainframe to another. And while this software tends to make that look easy, this can be much more complicated in an FTP, JCL, or however this is set up within the MBS job streams. ConnectDirect has been around on the mainframe since its inception, and it does conquer the movement between the mainframe and the distributed systems, where often that can be a frustration for the application groups when it comes to translation issues between mainframe data sets and data types to distributed systems, data sets and data types. ConnectDirect does move that across. I know the old number was in the 20s, but ConnectDirect does talk to over a dozen different types of operating systems, including operating systems such as Tandem, which is the HP nonstop now, the I-Series for the AS400, MBS, OS390, ZOS, Unix in 5 different flavors, and 4 of the top versions of Windows. So you have a very organic version of the software that can talk to just about any type of operating system that your organization wants to employ. The second process there is showing from a distributed system, and this is a push from a Windows box up to a mainframe, and it's showing I think that's to an I-Series, but it's showing how simplistic the data sets and process can be from one box to the next. Now, this is not an overview of the product by any means. This is simply showing some of the ease of use for Sterling's Connect Direct. It's also widely documented. Sterling and IBM have extensive documentation on these processes so that any scenario that you need to connect from one box to another can be done. The next solution that we'd like to talk about is really just a subset of Connect Direct, and this is the Connect Direct with FTP+. And part of the reason for this offering is that it can be a very daunting task to go back in and take a bunch of FTP scripts and start translating them. What is the impact and work level going to be on the application groups? You know, is the staff model that you have comfortable with re-engineering data transfers that have been set in place for years? So what we've done to kind of meet that need is offer up Connect Direct with FTP+. What this allows you to do is take in the scripting of FTP scripts on the mainframe, Unix, or Windows, and feed these into Connect Direct. Connect Direct then automates and translates that into processes so that now you're taking full advantage of Connect Direct's robust features. It also adds security. So, for instance, if you have a system that has 10 or 12 FTP scripts, which is transferring on a daily basis, these can be moved over to Connect Direct with FTP+, and now you have those processes going across with Connect Direct. Now, one caveat to that is that it does still need the Connect Direct on both sides. However, you're now increasing your reliability upon it. In acting like a client, it does give you further logging for what FTP is doing. So if one of the concerns is that you have 2 systems that transfer multiple FTP files, what you can do is implement this on both systems, installing Connect Direct on both, and implement the FTP client on the source or both servers. And then now you simply feed that, repoint the origin of the data through FTP to Connect Direct, and you have a complete solution now, one that's secured, loggable, and auditable. You're also adding to it the reliability of Connect Direct, which tends to be something that really helps to bring in the strength of an MFT software. So here's an example from a mainframe of a FTP job, and then the changes that are made to bring it over to Connect Direct with FTP+. So you can see that there's very minimal changes in there, mostly in executing of the program. The rest of the scripting is left alone, so that the hard work done by the app groups is now left undone, or not changed at all. So let's go on to the Sterling File Gateway, the IBM Sterling File Gateway. This product is a next generation product for IBM. This follows the SOA model for implementing software in an environment, and it has already in a number of organizations replaced aging MFT solutions that have caused considerable amounts of problems due to lack of logging or authentication. And one of the really great pieces of this software, and it is an edge-based application, is that it allows for exchange between multiple different kinds of trading partners. So rather than giving your organization only one method for file transfer, you're now opening up a whole host of supported protocols and methods to transfer data. Everywhere from ad hoc, where you can open up an HTTP website and allow someone to deposit a file manually, to interacting with Connect Direct, SSH FTP, SSL FTP, PSIP, AS2, and a number of other supported protocols. Literally, this is the Swiss Army knife of the MFT world. Anything you can and want to do from an MFT perspective, Sterling File Gateway will do for you. The other thing that this product does, and rather incredible, is it takes a single point of viewing what's happening within your MFT environment. You can see at any given point in time a single file transfer. You can see a host of file transfers from an application to another, and then you can take those views and you can export that out so that the app groups through the My File Gateway have the ability to track their own data. And this is really a remarkable piece of the software that allows you to take what has typically been an operation job and hand that to the app groups so that you reduce the amount of time and complexity spent interchanging information between the operations team and the application groups. It allows you to consolidate all kinds of different file transfer mechanisms. In fact, the position that we see this in an organization is to take different app groups that have 4 or 5 different types of file transfer mechanisms that they have built or that they're using and consolidate this into one centralized view. It also allows you to now build an audit trail for the auditors. It also allows you to centralize your logging in one place so that you can now determine the growth and the rate of your file transfers. It is a database-backed product, so rather than having to constantly monitor disk space and disk utilization, you can now feed this into your database farm already established in the organization, allowing you to take on to add to that your MFT now, the expertise of your database team in managing your size of the data that's being stored and forwarded. It uses a mailbox-centric view. SFG allows you to log in, deposit data into one mailbox, and then based on rules and roles based in the software, then translate that data and put it into a secondary mailbox. Often this type of software functionality was relegated kind of to the EDI realms, but with Sterling File Gateway, we've taken that very robust approach, and we've now made this an MFT solution. You have a lot of the same logic and rules that are available to the EDI world. This is backed by the Sterling Integrator Engine, previously known as Gentran, and so you have a very long history of support from the IBMs in Sterling that can give you a piece of software that has a tremendous amount of expertise and documentation surrounding this. While this is somewhat new in its current viewpoint, it is definitely a piece of software that has had some extensive history to how it works, and oftentimes it can be a frustration from an organization's perspective to find qualified engineers and application people around this. Well, Sterling File Gateway does fix that in some respects because people who are used to Gentran and Sterling Integrator will often find that this is a very simplistic piece of software to add and utilize. We've also noticed that in organizations that are new to a vendor piece of software, the Sterling File Gateway tends to go on very well. It has a very uncomplicated role permissioning. The onboarding process is extremely fast. Once you build 3 or 4 templates for different types of file transfers. Then you simply replicate those to build in your other trading partners. And not to be left out is it's very open standards for supporting protocols. In fact, it's a unique tool in the fact that you can add your own protocols to it. It has the capacity in its API to allow you to bring in a protocol that may be not supported very well and allow you to use the functionality behind Sterling File Gateway to now track the data going across those protocols. This shows a couple of screenshots from the product. One is showing a partner management portion of SFG, allowing you in one view to go in and administrate your partners. It introduces it introduces the idea of producers and consumers, which allows you to track which way your data in that method. The other portion is showing the SFTP server adapter. This is within the product are standalone JVMs that allow you to configure your protocols independently. What that does is gives you a really nice way to separate out the main portion of the product from the adapters. So to kind of translate what that means is that if for some reason the main portion of the product has to be recycled or maintenance applied, the adapters will stay live, allowing files to be transferred back and forth until such time as the main portion of the product is able to then apply the rules and roles based on those files. The other product we want to talk about is Sterling Control Center, and this is the software that kind of ties all this together. It allows you to consolidate logging. It also allows you to track files based on from a Connect Direct perspective, and it also has some tools to allow you to track FTP. This is the overall viewpoint and monitoring operations piece that you need to kind of tie in all of the MFT products that you have. This also has kind of a very much where we've become the handheld group. We want to watch everything on our cell phone or on our iPod. So there is now a piece of software that allows you to monitor this remotely on an Apple-based iPod or iPad. And this is a screenshot showing some of the queues, monitoring a very diverse set of Sterling and Connect Direct products in an environment. It shows you how it drills down, and you can see the number of files that are in error, what's not transferred, what's in the process of transferring. And then there are customized audit logs that allow you to pull out simple things like how many files did we transfer in a month, how many files have we transferred in the last 6 months, so that we can now start to do projections based on how big do we think it's going to be next year. What are our overall MFT size and logs that we need to be preparing for the next year. Sterling Secure Proxy, we touched on this, but this is a great piece of software that is a gateway software that allows you to transfer data in and out of an organization securely by using the idea of a protocol break between your internal apps and your external apps. This Sterling Secure Proxy sits in between and changes the authentication method. It also supports Connect Direct, so now you're no longer exposing your internal systems through the DMZ. They simply come into the DMZ, they authenticate, and that data then is forwarded to your internal application. It saves a tremendous amount of time and energy, because once the firewall is pointed to the DMZ device here, the IBM Sterling Secure Proxy, then you no longer have to continually open and close the firewall to allow different types of transfers. It does talk on a specific protocol to the internal environment. So when it goes back into its trusted zone, it's only talking on one particular type of protocol, rather than multiple protocols being open across your firewall. And it also allows, if you only want to use one type of protocol within the environment, then it allows now for support of multiple types of protocols external to your environment. So you're now meeting the needs of all of your trading partners. The logging the logging that you now have from there will show files that have come across. And if you don't have a larger MFT implementation in your organization, this piece is an excellent way to consolidate everything into one. And I'd like to show on the last slide here is how all of these pieces fit together. SSP is just one piece of the whole suite. And while we're showing kind of a grand view of the organization, what's interesting and fun about these products is that they all work well together. The logging, the authentication methods, everything comes from a very single point of view, so that you're not having to retrain on each application. Everything fits and works well together. If you'll notice, and if you're watching the slide closely, you'll see that there are two products on here I didn't mention so far. And as kind of a bonus to the webinar here, we'd like to introduce a couple of new products that IBM is rolling into the MFT solution. One of which kind of has an older name. It's the the MQ-FTD the full name is IBM Webster MQ File Transfer Edition. And what this is allowing to do now is bring the MQ series of products in alignment with the Sterling products, so that you can integrate this into Sterling File Gateway and use by Control Center, as well as the Sterling Secure Proxy. So while some of this has been implemented, in the next few months we'll see a greater implementation of this product being rolled into the MFT solution. The other thing that we'd like to produce or show is a brand new product offering that is being introduced, and it's the cloud service from IBM. So this is the Sterling File Transfer Service now with their cloud offering. And this allows for organizations who may not have a large IT department or an MFT grouping to gain some of the reliability of the MFT tools while doing this at a very low cost. So this is a way to now connect groups and companies that may not have the budget or the resources for large MFT implementation to now connect to large organizations and then facilitate their business with them.
As we wrap up the webinar for this afternoon, I'd like to thank everybody for joining. And please, if you do have any follow-up questions, certainly we could take those offline and engage Josh into those conversations where it's specific to your environment. And you can feel free to contact me, Scott Story at Remedi, or even Bob Lynch at IBM as well, and we'll certainly get the right resources in front of you to answer those questions. Thank you again for everybody. We'll go ahead and end the webinar at this point. And thanks again. Thank you, Josh, and everybody have a great afternoon.